everybody. This is Chrissy with the Read More, Write More radio show. And we have a special guest, Bridgett McGowen-Hawkins. Hey, Bridgett, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Chrissy, so good to be here. I love talking about publishing. I'm Bridgett McGowen-Hawkins, the owner and CEO of BMcTalks Press, an independent publishing company that is going to get your book published faster than the competition with results you absolutely love. Not only do we publish your book, but we make sure that it is one of the most enjoyable experiences you've ever had. As a matter of fact, the only thing you will regret is that you didn't call us sooner. So can't wait to dive into a good conversation on all things writing, publishing, books, all that stuff.
Definitely. And I'm so glad that you said that the publishing experience is enjoyable because I, for one, am a big believer that the writing experience should also be enjoyable. So, yeah, totally,
I'm
totally.
gonna turn the microphone around and I'm going to ask you a question, Chrissy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I don't find writing to be painful. As a matter of fact, I was having lunch with a girlfriend recently, and I can't remember what it was that came up. And I said, listen, Kristen, for me, going home and sitting down and writing a 60,000 word book is nothing for me to think about, just as doing X is nothing for you to stress out about. I'm just built a little bit differently. And you are the same way, Chrissy. You can crank out words. They're gorgeous words. It's not just cranking out words, but they have to be gorgeous. How does someone make writing enjoyable? Because, I mean, come on. Most people, whether it was elementary school, high school research papers, college essays, most people do not put the words enjoyable and writing in the same sentence. So how do you make that happen? How can you guide people to the promised land? How does that work?
Well, I mean, I can definitely make writing more enjoyable for people. And I do that with my book coaching clients. And so a lot of times they come to me with, perfection paralysis, or they come with these little idiosyncrasies that they're like, oh, I want to say this, but I can't say it in this way. And so we'll talk about, why do you want to say it that way? And we'll find a way to communicate it, because it all goes back to communication, right? Some people don't love public speaking, and like you couldn't imagine not public speaking. And so it's all about finding the right element and the right opportunity to kind of, test your mettle and improve your talent. Because it's like when you're a kid and everyone loves doing art, everyone loves doing like the painting and the coloring. And so they did a study on creativity. And so if you ask 20 kindergartners how many people are an artist, and like every single one of them's like, oh, I'm an artist. And then you go in 5th grade and like maybe 10 of them. And then you go into middle school and like one person raises their hand. And like I don't want to blame like the system on making people feel less creative, but I think that there are ways to be creative and still make money. And I think that people are like, if it's fun, then it's not going to make me any money. And I'm like, that's not true. It's not true. So.
I'm one of those firm believers where if it's not enjoyable, then you really need to reconsider why you're doing it. And it can be anything. So I was presenting at a writing summit, online writing summit, a few days ago. And we were talking about ways that you can make money off of your book without selling one copy. Intriguing. And
Intriguing.
yes, I love dangling carrots. And I shared, we'll say maybe somewhere between 7 and 10 ideas for how you can do that, how you can make that happen. And not to worry, listeners, I will clue you in on some ideas. However, I prefaced my list of ideas with, if it does not bring you joy, then do not do it. Plus, just because you see someone else who's had success with one of these strategies doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to do that because I'm going to have equal success. No, it needs to bring you joy. So one of the examples was speaking engagements, right? I said, we'll use that as an example. With speaking engagements, you can absolutely make money without selling a copy of your book because you're the authority on whatever your book is about. People will hire the person who literally wrote the book on that topic. So speaking engagements was one option. However, if you are one of those type of people who would rather be the one who's in the casket than the one who's giving the eulogy, then public speaking's not your jam. So don't do it.
Oh my God. I have not heard that analogy. Like, you'd rather be dead than being the one, like, saying nice things about the
Right.
dead.
You'd rather, be the one being eulogized than the one giving the eulogy. Then,
Okay.
getting up on a microphone, delivering a workshop, a keynote, or a breakout session just is not your thing. That's not your option for making money off of your book without selling a copy. However, perhaps an online course is an option for you to make
Right.
money off of your book without selling a copy of it. So there's two ideas for you on how to make money,
Well,
without selling
I
any of
wanna
your book.
back us up a little bit before we
Yeah.
dive into the publishing
Oh,
process.
yeah,
I
yeah.
wanna talk about idea to manuscript because that can be really hard for people. And so my book is Delegate Your Book, published by this one
BMc,
here,
yes, yes,
BMcTalks Press.
yes.
So, and it's been out a grand week? I think it's been out for 1 week now.
8 days. 8 days.
8 days. Yeah, 1 week. But anyway, so for me, it was really easy to think of the idea because I think of ideas for other authors all day. And so for me, it was like, what do I want to explain to people before they meet me? And so that was one way for me to think about my book is what do I want someone to know before they ever meet me?
Yeah.
And I find that works for most industries. Like, what do you want someone to know before they walk through your front door? And so, Bridgett, think back to your first book. How did you come up with your first idea?
Right. So not only am I going to tell you how I came up with my first idea, but I'm also going to give you some other avenues to consider when you're trying to figure out how to get from idea to manuscript. So here's what happened with mine. And listen, if you've heard this story before, just sit down and be quiet and listen to it again.
I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure it'll be great.
So in the summer of 2018, I know it's one of those Rose Nyland Golden Girls back in St. Olaf stories. So back in the summer of 2018, I submitted a proposal to speak at a conference that was being held in Washington, D.C. the following spring. Now, in early November, I received word from that organization saying, thank you for submitting your proposal. We reviewed it. It's okay. We're not going to accept it. We're not going to put you on the program. What we're going to do is just kind of put you in this little category over here. And if we have room, if we open up a spot and we're still interested in you speaking, we'll reach out. Essentially, don't call us, we'll call you. Cool. In early March of 2019, they did call or they emailed me and they said, hey, we'd love for you to present at this conference. And do you have a book that you can make available in our bookstore to sell? And I thought, no, I don't have a book, but I will have a book. Because you see, Chrissy, this wasn't just a conference. This was a conference where there were going to be like 14,000 people in attendance in our nation's capital, where Oprah was also one of the speakers. I thought, I have an opportunity to not only speak at this conference, that's a pretty big deal, but I also have an opportunity, to have my book available in the same bookstore where Oprah's book is going to be available. So what I did was I pulled together content from my blog. I had been blogging for about 3 years on the topic that I was going to be speaking on. So I combed through that. I also had some online courses that I created and mini courses that I created, combed through all of that content, pull the best of the best, organized it into 4 sections that I thought made sense.
Mhm.
Voila. And let me back up. The blog and the course came about because I felt there were gaps in the presentation skill knowledge base, if you will. That's what I was going to be presenting on. It was a conference geared toward people who are in talent development. A lot of people who have to make presentations as part of their job. A lot of learning and development people, a lot of corporate trainers. So my session was going to be a presentation skills session, a presentation on presentations. And so that's what my blogging had been from 2016 up until then, on how to make great presentations, whether it's voice, whether it's audience engagement. I mean, you name it. So, and I started these presentations and this blogging because I saw gaps in that topic, in that area,
Right.
where people would talk about, I don't know, pretending the audience is naked. That doesn't work. Practice in front of a mirror. You can do that, but that's not the right way to practice a presentation. I felt like what was already out there was insufficient. So that's one way to go from idea to manuscript, is that you see a gap in the content that other people are already putting out there. Others have written on your topic, but you see gaps, or you're simply unimpressed with it. And you know that your solution, your idea is just as good, if not better, than what's already in the marketplace.
Yeah,
And
you want to bring in your own spin, your own process,
yeah,
and tell people about it, because when you know better, do better, you know?
yeah,
And so I think that too, when you're thinking about your idea to manuscript, you're thinking who is in your audience, you're thinking who are your readers, and that's like everything you need, right? So
yeah,
let's say now we have our manuscript. All right,
yep,
so we have our manuscript and we're like, okay, we're going to shop it around, we're going to see what our options are for the publishing process.
yep,
And so I want to talk about your publishing process specifically, because I've had clients go through with you. I've gone through with you. We're still working together on a few people with you. And so, I know your process. I love your process. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a picky person. And I've been in the publishing world since 2012. And so I know what industry standard is. I know what better than industry standard is. And I will say hands down that Bridgett elevates every time. She elevates every
thank
time.
you. Thank you
And
so much.
definitely, like she said, she published my book, which is Delegate Your Book. And it's so pretty. Look at the yellow spine. Now, one of the fun things that we did was we worked on the cover, right? So your designer got back to me with a lot of cover ideas, but before we even got to that stage, we did a consult. So tell me what a consult is like for people who aren't in the industry, because I know for me, I'm like talking a mile a minute. I'm like, all right, Bridgett, here's what I want, and you're like, slow down, like we have a process, and I'm like, I can skip 7 steps, and you're like, there's a checklist. And so anyway, tell how do normal people do it?
Well, Chrissy, we do not have any kind of differentiation between normal and otherwise people. We treat everyone the same. And I have a cute story that I have to share. And this is going to be self promotion, but I just have to share it. So we have this author, and oh my goodness, Chrissy, when his book comes out in June of this year, you've got to read it. I could not put
Okay.
down his manuscript. And he's just so sweet. He's so sweet. So anyway, I reached out to him with a few questions and just whatever, today. And he's getting back with me, and we're walking him through some ideas and some things that we want to change, but we need to ask him if that's okay, and so on, because it's a memoir and it's very personal to him. And so this is actually kind of answering your question, because we consult with you before you sign on with us, after you sign on with us, and throughout the process, because he came to us with a very specific title he wanted for his book. And I was fine with it until I read the manuscript. And then I reached out to him and said, hey, how about this? And here's why. At any rate, we finally come to a point where we're both on the same page, no pun intended. And he writes something
Oh,
to the
pun totally intended. Yeah.
he writes back to the effect of, I really appreciate all of this special attention and care that you're taking with me and my project and everything. And Chrissy, I wanted to say, we do this with everyone, but I didn't want to ruin the moment because I really wanted
You're
him.
like, of course you're our only author.
Fingers crossed that he's not listening to this show, right?
Oh no, he totally should. But
But
yeah, like you want to make your people feel like they're the only person in your world, while still maintaining professional boundaries, and while still being like, I'm gonna slot you in, and all of these other things. And so one of the things that I loved about the consultation process with you is that you didn't just like do a quick surface hit. You weren't just like hit it and quit it, right? You actually, you asked thoughtful questions, and you were just really engaged in the whole process. And
right,
I loved that. And that's why I
right,
love sending people to you, honestly, is because like I know what they're going to get. They're going to get, they're going to get high quality, but they're going to get high quality with heart. You're not just like, these are the rules. You're like, hey guys, this is why these are the, like, this is why it's industry standard. Are you intentionally diverting?
right. Because yeah, we don't want you to later on find out we did something that wasn't industry standard and then you're upset with us. So it's like, we
Right.
can do that for you. However, industry standard is X. So you tell us what you want. You're the boss. I mean, that's how I approach it. But with the consultation piece, we sit and we talk with you about exactly what to expect. What is the process? What happens from start to finish? And then we talk through your ideas in the event you don't have them quite ironed out. Now, some people come to us with completed manuscripts like you. Of course, it would make sense that you would come with a completed manuscript given what you do. But you don't have to show up with a completed manuscript, because then we can put you in touch with one of our ghostwriters, one of our writing coaches, maybe Chrissy, right? And this is at no cost, no obligation. This is before you even sign on with us. You may decide, because we'll set up a call and you can see how you're vibing. You can talk through your ideas with Chrissy, another one of our partners in the ghostwriting and writing coach space is Allie. Another one is Danielle. Another one is Kyla. We have a number of them because they have different areas of expertise. They have different specialties. They have different personalities. They have different approaches. So after I have a conversation with you to kind of get a vibe and sense of your personality, then I will say, you know what? I really think I need to put you in touch with Chrissy. Let's all have a call. And we're still just talking through your ideas and what you want your book to do for you. And I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we get you from idea to manuscript in as direct of a fashion as possible, and in an enjoyable fashion as well.
Definitely. We have a lot of fun. So then once we get done with the manuscript and it's submitted and we're like, all right, big old check on that. So now it's in the edit and design phase. So what comes first, the book cover or the edited manuscript?
What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Actually, they kind of come at the same time. This is perfect timing to have this conversation because, again, our newest author, that's crazy how you were our newest author 8 days ago. Now we have a newer.
I'm old news. Old news.
You're old. You're 8 days old. You can fix your own lunch, tie your own shoes. You don't need us anymore. But we're going through this exact process right now with our newest author, and it kind of happens at the same time, the editing and the cover design, because when you hand over the manuscript, we immediately write you and say, great, but don't take a break, don't rest, because now we need you within the next 14 days or so to complete this questionnaire where we get a sense
Right.
of your style, colors, fonts, vibe. We just want to find out about your personality and what you're thinking with your book. And so by the time you get that to us, our team has finished the first round of edits on your book. And then our team has some ideas in mind of the flavor of your book or what your cover should look like. So the editing and the design, they're kind of happening simultaneously. And we do this partially because we kind of want to move things along. We don't want to lose momentum. We don't want the author to ever wonder what's going on with their book. We want you to always know what's happening all along the way. There's seldom any kind of a lag. You always know where you are with your project. So if someone were to ask you, hey, didn't you say you were writing and publishing a book? You can easily say, yes, as a matter of fact, I am. And we already have 5 cover design options. Actually, how many did we send you? It feels like we sent you more than 5.
You sent me more than 5. And I, again, because I'm in the industry, like I kind of knew what I wanted a little bit, but then you guys took it and like elevated it so much, and I was really appreciative. And actually, so let's talk about my cover for a minute.
Yes.
So this is a typewriter that is as a product. Actually, we're not
Yes.
going to say built by who because
Right.
I like my
With
covers. So just it is very beautiful.
it's
And so I have a local contact, Kay Kawada, who does product photography and also luxury photography and branding photography, and she's just very talented photographer. Kay Kawada of River 8 and Co. And she shot the typewriter for me because what had happened was your designer found a typewriter that I liked, and I liked the angle a lot. And so what I did was I sent that stock photo to Kay and I said, here's the angle that I want. Here's the cropping that I want. Um, do your magic. And so she was able to just exactly mimic the same angle as the stock photo. And then we actually had a little sheet of paper in there as well, and all this other stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And then well, this is my interview copy, so you can't really see so much because it has index card on the back. But the designer copied the graphic from the front onto the back and with like as a translucent image, and I was just like, ah, it's so subtle and I love it. And so you may not be as hands-on involved as I was because maybe you're not a crazy person, but but the designer is really open to feedback on everything. And so if you do have a specific vision, definitely share it with Bridgett and her team because they'll take it and make it even better.
Yeah, again, some people have very specific ideas as to what they want. We have one author, she's a hoot, she's hilarious. She's one of the first authors we published. And I remember very distinctly, she said, I don't want pink anywhere on my cover. I
Valid.
mean, yeah, yeah. And actually, she's not a good example because she wasn't one of those people who said just go forth and do what you think is best. She had like this very specific image that she wanted. She essentially designed her cover, but she has a graphic design background, right?
Right.
So she wasn't the best example, but she just had I'll never forget that very specific detail of not wanting any shade of pink on her cover. So yeah, the editing and the design, that kind of takes place simultaneously. And there will be shifts in the design, especially after we see how thick the book is and what does the spine look like, what's the back
Right.
cover going to look like, and so on. But yeah, it happens pretty much simultaneously.
So, what is the editing process like? I know from my background in the industry. So I used to do more editing, and now I don't do so much. But a lot of times I would take even people who were traditionally publishing, I would take their manuscript and I would edit it before they submitted it to their publisher. So do you prefer that authors, clean it up a little bit before it hits you, or you like, yeah, bring it in, we'll fix it?
I am so glad you asked. So the answer is kind of yes to both of those. So yes, that is our preference, that you quote unquote clean it up before you give it to us. As a matter of fact, we give you a 10-point checklist where we ask you to do 10 very specific things. One of those things is a little time intensive, but it is what it is. The 10th thing on the list that we ask you to do is to read your manuscript aloud from start to finish. That way you're able to catch errors and clean it up. So ideally, we want you to submit the best version of your manuscript. I mean, come on, you would never step out in anything less than your best at any time, right? So that's ideal, but will we clean it up? You bet your buttons we will clean it up. Or you bet your book will clean it up. So
I mean, I was going to go with Annie, bottom dollar, but I bet your book, sure.
Well, what the editing process looks like is we do mechanical editing. So we're going to take care of fixing any grammar problems, any punctuation issues. We're also going to make sure that it adheres to the standards of the Chicago Manual of Style. What does
Which
that mean?
I see on your bookshelf, actually. I was
Big,
like,
yeah, the
is
biggest
that,
book
is that
on
the
the shelf.
17th edition? That's the
Yeah,
17th.
let me point the pen toward it if I could dare.
You got it. You got it right
Right
there.
there. There she is. So what that means is, and this is just one example, if you have a number in a sentence, is it spelled out or is it presented as a numeral? Well, there are guidelines in the Chicago Manual of Style that dictates which numbers are spelled out and which ones are not. So little things like that you might not necessarily know.
I love their online catalog because you can save style guides. And I'm like, oh, and actually you can even create like folders to save them by clients. Like if you have, specific guidelines that someone else wants to follow. And I tell people above all, be consistent.
Yes. Right.
If
Right.
you're going to change things, just be consistent about it.
Right.
So.
Right. And the point of the Chicago Manual of Style is readers have become accustomed to a certain experience. And so
Yes.
making sure that we're adhering to those rules of that manual, as well as not using any kind of interesting or funky fonts when we typeset your book. Now, on the cover, we can do some interesting fonts, or maybe in the titles of chapters, we can do some interesting things. But when it comes to the actual body of your manuscript, you really want to stay pretty consistent with what the reader is used to. And those fonts that you see in some of the larger publishing house books,
Right.
that type of font, it's just easier on the eyes as well. So yeah,
That's
I don't know
important.
yeah. I don't know where I was going with all of that. It feels like there was some road that I was headed down with that. Oh, you were asking about the editing process. So make sure grammar, punctuation, all of that. We do some light developmental editing, but not full on developmental editing, unless you pay additional for that. Because not that we're going to have an economics course here, but I got to throw out some numbers. Developmental editing is the most, what is it?
Intensive?
Yes. So there are different types of editors. For the most part, there's about 3 types. There's a developmental editor. There's going to be a line editor or a mechanical editor, or sometimes called a copy editor. All 3 of those are not the same, but they kind of do the same work. And then the third type is going to be your proofreader. The proofreader should not see your book until a developmental editor has gone through it and a mechanical editor has gone through it. Developmental editors, they're reading your whole manuscript from start to finish, and they're looking at it big picture. Does this clearly convey ideas in a way that's seamless, that flows properly? They're going to be the ones who are going to tell you, you know what? Chapter 5 really needs to be moved down to chapter 7, or this paragraph here really would work better over here. So they're giving you big ideas for how to improve your manuscript overall. Then the mechanical or line editors, they're starting to look at things on a paragraph level or a sentence level. So maybe they'll say things like, hey, this paragraph would read so much better if you had a transition at the start of it. Or they're going to make sure that you don't have any dangling modifiers or what have you. Now, your proofreader, it's not until all those edits are done, and then they're going in there to make sure there are no mistakes.
So I actually have a food metaphor for editing.
Ooh, I'm ready.
So it's all about cooking eggs. I guess I was really hungry when I was thinking about this. But actually on my website, if you click on editing, it'll tell you like this thing. So proofreading.
Yes, you're right. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, hit it.
Proofreading is akin to cooking a poached egg. Like
Mhm.
proofreading, it's very detail oriented, like timed perfectly. Everything is just like on point, right? Copy editing is like cooking an omelet. Like you can have your simple omelets, you can have your complex omelets, like you can have it with chives, you can have it with salmon, you can have it like completely basic, whatever. But so copy editing has a bit of a range. And then developmental editing requires the mastery of cooking a quiche. Because like you have all your ingredients, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had some not great quiches and I've had some wonderful quiches. And there's a big difference.
That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. So this is where I was going with the editing piece. We do provide developmental editing, but for the reason you just spelled out, it's far more complex. Developmental editing is far more expensive. So
Bridgett offers mini quiches.
Yeah.
Quiches.
Yes, we offer bite-sized quiches. Well, no, we offer the full-on pie, the full quiche, right? But it's just at an additional
for an
charge.
additional cost, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, because this is the thing. Editing can cost you anywhere from 5 cents a word to 20 cents a word, roughly in that range. That 5 cents a word, 3 to 5 cents a word, those are going to be your proofreaders. Those are going to be your poached eggs. Your 20 cents a word, and maybe even upwards from there, those are going to be your developmental editors. They are going to charge more because the skill set and the work that they're doing is far more involved than just looking for subject-verb agreement.
Now, do you work with indexers ever, or it hasn't come up yet?
Right. It has not come up yet. It has not come up yet. Yeah.
Well, I do have some good indexers if you need one.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've gotten through the edit and design, and now we're gonna say you click publish. All right. Now you publish through Ingram Spark, right?
Ingram Spark as well as Amazon KDP. There's a very specific reason as to why we do both. So Ingram Spark is going to be the distributor that is going to put your book on Amazon's site, as well as Barnes and Noble's, Porch Lights, Walmart, Target, so on and so forth, Books A Million on down the line. So you may say, well, why do you do Amazon KDP as well? Here's the deal. For books that are sold, for books that are purchased directly from Amazon, and Amazon is the one that is fulfilling that order, your royalty rate is going to be different. It's going to be higher than it is if someone purchases your book from Amazon, but Ingram Spark is the distributor who's fulfilling that order.
So from like a front end, how do we know which one is which?
You don't, right? That was
okay.
And you see different sellers can make your book available on Amazon. So it could be, this sounds awful, like it feels kind of icky that anybody could be handling your book. Anybody could be touching your book, have their hands on your book. But it's true, and selling your book. So you don't know. It's a really crazy, hairy, wild world. You don't know until you receive your royalty report and see how many units were sold via KDP versus how many Amazon units were sold via Ingram Spark.
I will say I was so impressed. I am so impressed. It's 8 days in. I did not realize that my book would be on Amazon Canada, Amazon UK, and Amazon India. And it might be on other Amazon websites as well. But I mean, obviously, I was really excited about Porchlight and Books a Million and Walmart and, Amazon, obviously, that's still one of the biggest booksalers. But I was just like, one of my friends in the UK, I was going to ship her a copy, and she's like, "Hey, Chrissy, I just checked online. Don't ship me a copy. I can order it myself." And I'm like, "It won't be signed," but she was
True.
okay with it not being signed. But anyway, and so that's how I found out it was on Amazon UK. And then I Googled, is it on Amazon India? Because my husband's from India. And so I was like, can my family in India buy copies easily? Yes, they can. Although, we're gonna ship them copies. But and then I was on a networking call with a group of writers in Canada, and I was explaining how book coaching works. And I was like, "Oh, you should read my book." And so we were all on Google together, like looking to see, "Oh, is it on Amazon Canada?" Yeah, it's on Amazon Canada. And so, like with the currency and stuff, it was like 20.99 Canadian dollars. And they're like, "Oh, that's fine." And I was
Yeah.
like, "But it's only 14.90." And they're like,
They're
"Transfer?"
used to, they're,
Oh,
yeah, they're totally
no.
used to that. I remember when I was in Canada back in, I think it was either 2020 or 2021. And the book that I was selling, I think sold for, we'll say, 19.99 in the States, but it was, I don't know, 26.99 up there. And they were perfectly fine with it because they're just accustomed to that. That's how
Oh,
they roll.
man.
But yeah,
Like,
I'm glad you bring that up, Chrissy, because that's another reason that we put it on not only Ingram Spark, but also KDP, Amazon's
mhm,
KDP, because it enables your book to be sold on other Amazon sites in other countries. That
yeah.
won't happen if we just put it on Ingram Spark.
Well, there we go. Do you want to move on to promotion, or do you have anything else to talk about with the publishing phase?
With the publishing phase, so there's so much more that happens with the publishing phase. So, of course, your book is proofed, you get a proof of it, you can still make changes to it. I know people are nervous. They're like, "Oh, I
Let's write
know, right?"
the author proof copy. Oh my
Yeah.
God, hang on.
Yes, because I know you feel like when you hand over your manuscript, it's like, "Oh no, it's leaving me and I can never touch it again."
I can
And
never touch it
no,
again. Oh man, I
right.
remember I went back and forth so many times. So when you get your proof copy, it'll say, "Where's my camera? There it is." It'll say "not for resale." And so because I wanted to get proof copies out to my launch team quickly, I sent them this version with the little stripe, so it wasn't quite as sexy as the real thing, but they got to read it before everyone else. So that was fun for them. But yeah, it's surreal, like holding it in your hand, and you're like, you're looking, because first you're gonna get a digital proof. So you get a digital proof from Bridgett, and which is fine, but like, you can't touch it. You do get a sense of layout, but it's digital layout is so different than paper layout, and it's a whole other ball game. And so yeah, like
And you'll see things after you get like the physical book in your hand, although you've
mhm,
looked at the digital flip book of your book. Once
right.
you get the physical book in your hands, you just see things differently. Things will jump out at you. You'll notice something. And there'll be changes that you'll still want to make. One of our authors will publish in March, and she recently received her proof. And I've already told her, yes, I've already told, oh, Chrissy, I'm so upset. So here's the deal. Well, not upset, but
What happened?
no. So she was due to fly out Saturday. She said she was flying out late Saturday. So I was like, oh, good. Her book will get delivered right before she flies out. And so I received notification at like about 2:30 that her book's been delivered. I'm thinking 2:30, she should still be home. So I'm texting her, hey, yo, are you home? Your book was just delivered. And she's like, no, I'm already at the airport. But you told me you were flying out late. How is 2:30 late? So anyway, she won't be able to see and touch and feel and smell her proof until she gets back home tomorrow night. But she said she was going to have her husband read it to her over over FaceTime. I
So
don't
the
know.
other thing too was like my proof is white and then my actual book is cream. And so that was a little, you have to get used to these things. And so I do prefer the cream. So
And we do
um
too. I mean, that's almost an industry standard, almost. Books that are like reference books or textbooks or workbooks, those tend to get printed on white paper, but
right.
other trade books are going to be printed on cream. So, but hey, if we were to have somebody with a trade book who said, Bridgett, I won't start white paper. I don't care what industry standards are. Well, by golly, you're going to get some white paper. But yeah, cream, and it's my preference too.
Bright white.
Yeah.
But cream is so much easier on the eyes. I think it's
Exactly.
friendlier.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
well,
Um,
let's talk about promotion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, well, very quickly in the publishing process, so
Oh,
we take
sure.
care of your ISBN, your barcode, we take care of your Library of Congress control number. Your,
Copyright.
yes, we take care of submitting your copyright application. You received yours, yes. You received your
I sent you a
certificate.
selfie. Was like,
Yes, I saw that. You're so funny. We take care of getting your book to the Library of Congress. As a matter of fact, Chrissy, yours will arrive in about 8 days at the Library of Congress in DC. So there's a ton of little things that we take care of. There's about 48 steps in the whole process. And you see that whole process in our client portal as you
right,
work through your project. So when it comes to promotion, ton of things that we do here. Now, I am going to always say this: the best marketing tool, the best mouthpiece that any book can have is going to be the author, him or herself, period. Now, do we offer some marketing services? To an extent? Yes, some light marketing. We're a
right,
publishing company, not a marketing company. So what we do is we're going to provide you with custom graphics. We're going to provide you with a marketing checklist. We're going to provide you with ideas on book sightings and podcasting and interviews and just getting the word out about your book. We also have some preferred partners in the book marketing space that we are happy to introduce you to. And they have additional fees because that's what they do. They market books. We publish them, where we're going to
right.
do everything that I talked to you about. But our wheelhouse is not book marketing. So we do some level of book marketing for you. We're going to take care of that professionally written press release, make sure the world knows about your book and get you featured in some major media. We're also going to take care of doing some social media posts here and there to congratulate you on the publication of your book. And then we're going to encourage you to get out there and do some pre-sales and tell everybody that you are an author,
With a capital A.
pretty much. So funny.
So, what happens next, like with the post-publishing support? Like, I mean, honestly, I feel very supported, so supported. But like, what does it look like for someone who's never done this before, who has no concept of what is and what isn't?
Right. So we don't publish you and then just kind of drop you, or we disappear into thin air. So with the post-publishing support, we are going to constantly provide you with information about the industry and constantly provide you with ideas for how you can extend your book's reach. Give you ideas for, are you thinking about a second edition? A revised edition? How do you know when it's time to do either one of those? Is it time, if you publish your book as a hardback, is it time to now publish it as a paperback? So we give you book marketing ideas about getting on TikTok with your book, about ads and what are some pitfalls to avoid. So we reach out to our authors on a monthly basis, roughly, with just specifically curated content and ideas to help them just kind of continue their author journey. So it's not just on the day that their book published that they're excited and they're revved up and ramped up and doing things, but we want you to continue doing things with your book. So we support you beyond that. As a matter of fact, one of our authors published in October of 2022. And she and I had a call, it feels like just last week, talking about an engagement that she had coming up. And so she had questions about, well, Bridgett, should I? And this may not sound like a big deal to listeners, but it is kind of a big deal. She was asking Bridgett, I mean, I'm kind of curious about the book sales. Like, I've never really dealt with that. So they're giving me an option to have book sales at the back of the room after the presentation, or book sales in the vendor area in the exhibit
Mhm.
hall. And she says, which should I choose? And I said, both. So here's why. And here's why I say, if they give you an option, if they say you can do both, then take both. However, if they give you only one option, do back of the room. And here's why. You want to get them when they're hot and bothered. So after you've
Mhm.
presented, that's when they're most in love with you. And so after you've presented, if that's the only time, or if again, if you have one option or the other to catch them later or catch them now, you want to catch them now. So, and even with that, you need to ask for logistical support. You don't want to be the person who is swiping the credit cards on your Square as you're ringing up people to buy their books, plus signing them, plus putting your autographed by the author sticker on it, and trying to schmooze with people. I'm not saying it's impossible, but ask for that support, to have somebody who's ringing up the sales for you, so you can
Bring
just
your
sit
support
on.
with you is my recommendation.
Ask if they'll supply someone, because sometimes they will, because they have people on. I mean, especially if it's a larger conference, and if
Mm.
you are somebody who's kind of popular and people are excited to hear what you're all about, just ask, right? But then if you are, and here's something that I've done: if you are not at liberty to bring somebody with you, it's nice if you can ask and they'll provide somebody for you. Or maybe you have a husband or a spouse or a friend you can bring along, even better, and that person can help you out. And here's something that I've done. I remember I was presenting at the Los Angeles Convention Center, February 2020, at a women's expo. And I did not have anyone that I could bring with me, uh, or like, I could bring my husband, but that's just not really his jam, right? And besides, he had to watch our son who traveled with me. The joys of being a professional speaker, sometimes family get to go with you. So what I did was I went on, I think, Upwork. I went on Upwork and I said, I need someone for about 4 hours from, 1 until 5, to be at the Los Angeles Convention Center. Here's the rate of pay, dot, 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 blah, 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 whatever. Ended up with this wonderful young lady. Of course, we met via Zoom and talked. And
Sure.
Chrissy, when I tell you, no one was the wiser at our booth. They thought that she worked for my company full time, because she was incredible. She got up to speed on what I did, learned about my books, knew about the presentation that I was delivering. And so she was ringing up book sales for me while I was schmoozing with people. So if you can't take someone with you, or if the conference won't provide someone to take care of sales for you, whatever, check out Upwork or Thumbtack. I think I posted the job in maybe early January or something like that. And I don't even think I interviewed anyone but that particular person. And we're
I
still in
would
touch
I would
now.
also encourage those are great ideas, but I'd also encourage you to use the search feature on LinkedIn and check out your network for who lives in the area, because you might be able to tap someone that you want to get to know better, or they might have someone that they personally recommend. So that's another way to do it as well, is you can filter search by cities. And I like to do that when I'm traveling. I mean, I haven't traveled much since before the pandemic, but when I do again, I'll filter by cities and see, like,
Yeah.
who's who's nearby.
Yeah,
So
that's a great idea. So with post-publishing support, obviously with me being a professional speaker, I'm happy to talk about all things speaking. And so that's just that one example that I can give you, where I talked to an author just last week. Just we were on for more than an hour just talking through ideas. I'm not charging her anything for that. Her book's published, she's paid, it's a wrap, but she's still out there promoting her book, so we're going to support her.
So one of the kind of nerdy ways that Bridgett supports is she has this really gorgeous back end of the infrastructure. I wasn't being flirty, Bridgett, but she's a
Hilarious.
cyclist, so probably. But anyway, but for author copies, Bridgett has a link through her client portal where her authors can order copies of their book for a special price, because like as an author, you don't pay list price. My list copy is $14.99. I do not pay $14.99 when I want a copy. And Bridgett makes it super easy to just reorder. And
I'm
that's
glad you bring that
wonderful.
up. I'm glad you bring that up because we had one author, her name is Lisa, and she published with us International Women's Day of 2021. She
Which
was
is in
presenting
March, people. March.
March 8th, 2021, and International Women's Day is every March 8th. And she was presenting at a conference in December of 2021 out in Las Vegas. She needed 150 copies, I believe, of the book. And
Yeah.
so she just ordered the 150 copies and we shipped it. We were like, okay, what's the address of the conference? We shipped it to the conference and they were delivered. Additionally, you can direct the conference to us, and it's just me and the conference, or our team and the conference, that deals with it, and you don't have to deal with it or what have you. So yeah, we hook you up. And author price copies are anywhere from 50 to 60% off, sometimes more off retail, just depending on the cost to produce your book.
Mm-hmm. And it's super easy. I've reordered, I think, twice since not since the launch, but I've reordered twice since we finished.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't run out in 8 days, so that's good. I anticipated enough need, but
So funny.
yeah, it's been such a pleasure working with you, Bridgett, and I know that you'll be back on again sometime. I think we're looking at maybe March for the next time to have you on for the radio show. But
Okay.
tell people where they can find you.
Yes, 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 yes. All right. So the easiest way, let me think, what's going to be the easiest way? The
Well, last
easiest.
time you said connectwithb.com.
Okay, and that's what I'm going to
Still
say
a good
this
one?
time too. Yep, that's
All
what I'm
right.
going to say this time too. So go to connectwithb.com. That's the easiest way because we've brought up the speaking, we've brought up the publishing. And there's so much other stuff out there. So connectwithb.com. And that way, you're able to connect with me on social media. You're able to check out our blogs. You're able to check out the podcasts and so on and so forth, all in
And the
one
LinkedIn
place.
newsletter.
And the LinkedIn newsletter, the right words, that comes out on a weekly basis every Wednesday. Be
Every
there
month.
or be square.
LinkedIn is really great for extending your reach. So as an author, if you create a newsletter related to the topic of your book, then that's a good way to, direct people back to your book and things like that. And I think on the checklist, Bridgett also mentioned, make sure your book's in your email signature and things like that. So those are all really helpful, really important tips.
Talk about your book. Don't stop talking about your book. If you don't talk about your book, no one else will talk about your book. No one will know about your book. So keep bugging people about it. You wrote it, you love it, put it out there. Yeah.
My books at delegateyourbook.com.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
Awesome. Well, Bridgett, thank you so much. I think I think that's a wrap. Unless you have anything else,
Nah, that's it.
we'll
You
save it
know,
for next time. We'll save it
yes,
for
yes,
next time.
exactly. Got to save some content for the future. Can't give it all away. Can't give away all the goods at once.
Awesome. Well, you can see me again every week on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern for the Read More, Write More radio show. See you then.